question that everybody seems to be missing with an issue such as the Amazon H2, the HQ headquarters, number 2, their second headquarters, in regards to their whether or not they should have been received all those incentives or not. The question that has been being missed is why are we in a position in the first place to be dependent on any capitalist corporation or even a private business, either private business or a publicly traded corporation? Why are we putting ourselves in a position where we're dependent on them for the basic needs of economic needs of any society, or any like small whether it's like a local economy or the broader national economy? We've put ourselves in a position where we have to have those businesses want to come to some area to provide the jobs that in turn provides the income for the citizens. And there's nobody's asking, but why does it have to be that way in the first place? Because when we do it that way, then we're trying to figure out ways to make it so whatever's in the interests of the capitalist organization, you gotta find a way make it so somehow their interests are going to be also correspond with the interests of the working class of society. Need to try to get them to mesh, and then that can be a rather a difficult process where society ends up having to give up all these. Say in New York City, they had to give up all these tax incentives, where they were going to not tax Amazon such a high amount. They would not get that revenue from Amazon directly. They were going to. The idea was for those supporters of the H2 second headquarters there was that there would be an indirect knock-on benefit to the city from all the new jobs created. In other words, it's just another form of trickle-down economics, and that's entirely the way we've organized the economy. It was where we're depending on trickle-down economics to work, even though that's a theory that's been shown time and time again to not work. So then the question is, why can't we have a whole different system where if effectively eliminate the middleman and instead organize everything directly to benefit society, to benefit the working class? Forget about trying to pander to those corporate billionaires. It's like when Amazon was trying to decide where to put their second headquarters, all these politicians stood in line like some people at a medieval castle waiting to talk to the king and bringing him all these gifts, hoping to curry the favor of the king. And in this case was the Jeff Bezos acting in that role of royalty of the king. And so all these elected politicians standing in line with all these gifts. They're trying to win Jeff Bezos' favor in hopes that put his headquarters right there in their town. That seems like shows we really failed, as if we're going to think we have to behave that way as a democracy, and as a society that's oriented towards being a country of, by, and for the people. That is, instead we've become a plutocracy where the billionaires are the royalty, and everybody is acting, falling over themselves to please those members of the plutocratic royalty. So therefore, I think we need to just do away with that entirely. Stop trying to find ways, think of ways, different arrangements, so we can somehow do it differently this way, then ways of pleasing the capitalists will somehow work out so that it'll mesh with the needs of the masses. I'm saying give it up. It's not going to work. It never has worked. It never will work. The only way to do things, the only way to ensure to act in the interests of the masses is to directly address those needs and take whatever measures is needed to meet those needs directly. Stop trying to go through this Rube Goldberg device of trying to meet those needs via the selfish interests of the billionaires. By trying to meet the selfish interests of the billionaires, and somehow along the line, through all these mechanisms of capitalism, there's going to be a trickle-down benefit to the masses. It's not going to work that way. Throw away that Rube Goldberg device of capitalism as we know it, and then instead just address the needs of the people. So what do the people need? Well, they need there's the basic utilities. And we've already addressed mainly, for the most part, it could use some tweaking, but for the most part we've addressed the needs of the basic utilities, of at least especially natural gas and electricity, where those services are available. Most places are available in the U.S. by having a Public Utilities Commission that dictates what prices, sets a maximum level, what a utility can charge, and requires provide a minimum level of service to their customers. And so that way the needs of the masses are met without pandering to the owners, the executives of those power companies. Instead, the government tells them what to do, and if they don't agree to the terms, then the government takes over, will run the utilities. And so then in this case we can see as something like the jobs of corporations or businesses, whether corporation or private business. The jobs provide the money that the society then uses to the employees get the paychecks, and then they use those paychecks to pay for their necessities of life, and including utilities, food, shelter, insurance, what have you. In a modern developed society, it was known as the cost of living. Being able to pay for those services should be considered a vital utility. And so there should also be effectively the same thing with the money used to pay for the utilities. Well, that money, the income, there should be some kind of Public Utilities Commission there as well to ensure that the citizens have enough income to pay for their goods and services, to pay for what is known as pay for their cost of living in a modern developed world. So we need a Public Utilities Commission for that. And then we can just tell the businesses what they can and cannot do in terms of providing income for society. And if they refuse, well, then the state can take over the business or the facilities. Now, for an example, it's recently announced that Del Monte Foods here in Minnesota, in a small town in Minnesota, is going to be closing a cannery. And all those jobs, if you include the both full-time and seasonal workers, it'll be, I think, close to 400 workers will lose their jobs once the plant closes. Now, that's going to be very difficult to replace those jobs. Yeah, I think I read that the city is hoping that another cannery or another business that will buy the plant and continue the same operation. So once again, society is dependent on the selfish needs of another business, seeing it as in their own interests to buy the plant and get it going again. Society there in a small town of Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, they're dependent on the selfish interests, the capitalist interests of another business to come in to help the town out, so they can continue the employing the workers. So that is completely seems to me completely upside down from the approach that we should be having. We should not have to depend on the selfish interests of some capitalist for the basic needs of society, when we have the wherewithal to meet those needs without going through that Rube Goldberg device again, going through the capitalists to bring those needs to society. So what I propose in the case of the Del Monte cannery, once that closes, then the state could and should buy the plant and continue the operations and run it as a business, as a cannery, just as before, but it'll be run by the state. I think that should be done in a lot of other instances as well. So then the employees will still have their jobs, they'll still have the income going through to the city. People use it to spend in the city and elsewhere, and they'll have the income to pay for their cost of living expenses. We don't need the capitalists. The state could buy up this plant and run it. We certainly have the resources. We have the funds. There's the need. So we address there's a need. We have the ability to meet that need. So what's stopping us? I'm not sure. I mean, I suppose there's a lot of people that still have a negative connotation with with communism. Yeah, I recognize there's a lot of people still, but I think they're confusing the principle of communism with the actions of the former Soviet Union and Stalinism. I think what they should, when I think people use communism in a pejorative manner, what they should be saying, what they mean is they're talking about Stalinism, not necessarily communism. Communism is a very broad principle. It's with a lowercase c, not the Communist Party. It's just the principle of communal ownership. We already do it in many cases in terms of roads, bridges, parks, libraries. That's all communal ownership. That's what communism is. Communism. It's the commune. Communal ownership. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pure form of anything. We never have a pure form of capitalism. We never have a pure form of communism. It's all a matter of degrees. In this case, such in the case of this cannery, there will be more communism, but it will not be any less freedom for society from the government, from the state owning a cannery. just the opposite. There will be more economic freedom for the citizens versus being laid off, not having a job at all, not having any income at all. So their economic freedom will be at least retained, and there will be no compromising of, say, the United States Bill of Rights by the state owning the means of production of a food cannery. So therefore, there's no reason not to do it. So I plan on writing my representatives and governor about my idea. I don't know what the chances of them. I don't think it's too likely that they're going to introduce any bills for the state to buy the cannery in Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, that's about to close. But I'm still going to try. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. We need to stop pandering cap in hand to the capitalists. Just hoping that they'll hope there'll be some way that their selfish interests will also be in the interests of the working class masses. Doesn't work. Never will work. Never has worked. Should give it up. Give up that idea. We need to directly help ourselves. We don't need the billionaires. They need us, but we don't need them. We need to be more self-reliant. We are the ones that are practical. We know how to get things done. The billionaires, they only know how to push paper around, count beans, and market themselves. But they don't know how to do the practical things like the working class masses do. They don't have a clue. If there was if there ever was a real life Atlas Shrugged, the book by Ayn Rand, she had it completely upside down. So instead of the working class people struggling once the billionaires left, we would be thriving. And the billionaires, they would be off in a comedy of errors trying to figure out how to survive in the wild with no practical skills whatsoever. They would be coming back on their hands and knees, all disheveled, begging for us to let them back into our society. That would be the reality of a real life Atlas Shrugged. So that's most of my ideas on the matter. We need to take it by the reins, take society by the reins, and do things for ourselves, self-reliant. We don't need the billionaires. We don't need those free market capitalists. We can help ourselves. That is all I have to say for now. Thanks for listening.